Hello dear friends, glad to see you on the channel. As always, we continue to explore the boundless universe of Poppy Playtime, so get ready to go on a new journey through our favorite game. As I promised you, we continue the series of videos, where we will try to understand the questions we are interested in together with you. Exploring the vastness of YouTube. I noticed an interesting detail that almost no one tells about one character, and the name of this character is DogDay. Some of my colleagues post videos on the topic, "What if you try to save DogDay?" But no one for some reason does not tell his story, and so I thought that you will be interested to hear about such a character as DogDay. And at the end of the video, we will deal with some of my theories about what happened to him and whether everything is as simple as you thought. Well, here we go. DogDay, a creation of Playtime Co., first emerges as a minor antagonist in Chapter 3, Deep Sleep. Within this narrative, DogDay assumes leadership of the Smiling Critters, a group later involved in the Bigger Bodies Initiative experiment. Originally, DogDay and the Smiling Critters coexisted harmoniously, each undergoing their respective Bigger Bodies experiments. However, following the tumultuous events of the Hour of Joy, the group fractures, leaving DogDay as its sole survivor. Subsequently, CatNap, in response to DogDay's defiance of the prototype, confines him to a concealed cell within the playhouse, subjecting him to relentless torment. Upon discovering DogDay incarcerated and grievously injured, with limbs missing, the player proceeds to power the playhouse's backup generator while contending with the mini Smiling Critters. In a one-sided exchange with DogDay, the player unwittingly provides an opportunity for the mini Smiling Critters to consume DogDay's remains, effectively commandeering his body to pursue the player. DogDay's personality. As per his Twitter X profile, DogDay is portrayed as a valiant figure and the esteemed leader of the Smiling Critters. Characterized by his pendant, DogDay exudes a cheerful disposition, consistently seeking out the silver lining and offering support to others during challenging times. Like his comrades, except for CatNap, DogDay grapples with anchorophobia, an aversion to wind, though he makes half-hearted attempts to reassure others amidst windy storms. During a pivotal moment in the Smiling Critters cartoon's conclusion, DogDay inhales the red smoke emitted by CatNap, resulting in a disturbing transformation. He manifests traits of madness, addiction, and frenzy, joining in hysterical laughter with fellow characters before succumbing to unconsciousness. In the realm of the Bigger Bodies Initiative, DogDay appears as a subdued, possibly due to prolonged captivity at the Playtime Co. factory. Despite his confinement, he possesses profound insights into CatNap's intentions and the dynamics between entities like the mini Smiling Critters and their perspectives on CatNap, as conveyed through DogDay's monologue.
CatNap, the prototype is his god, and this is what he does to heretics. These little toys follow CatNap to avoid that very fate, and in return, they are fed. We try to fight it, the prototype's control. I am the last of the Smiling Critters.
In his dismembered state, DogDay's mobility is limited to simple head movements. Despite his plight, he demonstrates a keen awareness of his circumstances and prioritizes the player's well-being over his own in his final moments. Origin story. Initially launched alongside the rest of the Smiling Critters, DogDay quickly became a standout character, garnering attention through both merchandise and a dedicated cartoon series produced by Playtime Pictures. In these animated adventures, DogDay emerged as a charismatic leader, adept at lifting spirits even in the face of adversity. CatNap, recall, Smiling Critters. Cartoon. Set against the backdrop of a stormy night at DogDay's residence, the Smiling Critters find themselves gathered in the living room, seeking solace from the howling wind. Despite their anxiety, DogDay endeavors to reassure his companions. However, their tranquility is shattered by an unexpected visitor, CatNap. Upon CatNap's arrival, a surreal sequence unfolds as he exhales a cloud of red gas, sending the critters into fits of hysterical laughter. The scene culminates in an eerie freeze frame, leaving CatNap alone, gazing ominously at the viewer. Chapter 3. Deep Sleep unfolds as the player, amidst a frantic pursuit by the mini Smiling Critters, races to power up the playhouse's backup generator. Amongst the chaos, they stumble into a chamber adorned with cushioned tiles and vacant cells. In one corner lies DogDay, imprisoned and grievously injured, his lower half severed. Acknowledging the player's presence, DogDay reveals himself as the last survivor of the Smiling Critters, suggesting the demise of all others except for CatNap. He discloses crucial information about the mini Smiling Critters' allegiance to CatNap and warns the player of the peril they face. DogDay also sheds light on CatNap's belief in the prototype as a deity, contrasting his own dissenting views born from the horrors witnessed during the Hour of Joy. Midway through his revelation, DogDay's speech is abruptly cut short as the many smiling critters swarm into his body, consuming him from within. Urging the player to flee, DogDay's remains collapse to the ground, his limbs now under the control of the malevolent creatures. Despite his valiant effort to aid the player, DogDay meets a tragic demise. His body eventually barricaded behind a closed door, the echoes of his screams haunting the halls of the playhouse. Abilities and Physiology. In contrast to many of the creations from the Bigger Bodies initiative, DogDay doesn't exhibit any particularly extraordinary traits or abilities. While other experiments like Mommy Longlegs boast unique capabilities such as elastic plasticity and arachnid-like attributes, DogDay lacks such distinctive features. Despite being subjected to prolonged captivity within his cell, DogDay demonstrates remarkable resilience, maintaining his vitality and longevity over an extended period. This endurance suggests his ability to adapt to his confinement following the tumultuous events of the Hour of Joy. Notably, DogDay's ability to endure a decade of captivity under CatNap's supervision sets him apart, and especially considering that most experiments typically exhibit a strong drive to satisfy their primal urges, such as hunger. Interesting notes. Fans have speculated that DogDay is Experiment 1160. His scent, vanilla, is used traditionally to promote relaxation and reduce stress. As such, DogDay shares both similarities and contrasts with CatNap. Both vanilla and lavender, the latter referred to in folklore as the calming plant, are both traditionally associated with relaxation. The contrast comes with CatNap's poppy gas, despite DogDay, nor the other smiling critters not inhabiting the ability. Whilst it relieves stress through putting people to sleep, it does not relax people in the slightest, as shown with the reactions of DogDay and the other smiling critters in the cartoon, and with the mention of it giving kids nightmares in CatNap Recall. As I said at the beginning of my video that I will tell you some theories about this character, so here we go. My first theory is that after we run away from DogDay stuffed with mini versions of smiling critters and the doors close in front of them and we hear screams, and suddenly it's not the death of DogDay. Suddenly someone came to his aid, or he himself gained strength and was able to overcome these mini versions, and we hear the scream of these small creatures, and then in the next part of the game, we can hope for his appearance. And my second theory is that he, like CatNap, worships Prototype, because as I mentioned above, he and CatNap have quite similar abilities, and he gives us false advice to lead us astray. And in fact, the mini versions of smiling critters are his subordinates who make up for the function of his missing legs. Which of these theories seem most plausible to you? Or maybe you have your own theory under DogDay. Either way, would love to hear your opinions on it in the comments. Well, for today, all dear friends, as always, I would like to hear your opinion in the comments under the video, whether you like this format of video or would like to see something else. Also, leave in the comments your questions about the game. I promise to help you deal with them in the next videos. Give this video a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with news on Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. Your support is very important to me, and it motivates me for new videos. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you soon.